I heard the front door slam so hard the walls trembled. At first, I thought it was a mistake. A gust of wind, maybe. But then I saw him, Ethan, my fiancé, standing in the hallway, breathing like a storm was trapped inside his chest. His jaw was clenched and his eyes. I'd never seen that look before, not even when he was furious at contractors or suppliers. "What's wrong?" I asked, my voice small as I bent down to buckle my sandal. "You're supposed to be on site this morning." He didn't answer. Instead, he threw a thick folder onto the coffee table. It burst open like a wound, spilling photographs across the polished wood. I stepped closer and my stomach twisted. They were of me, with Logan, his deputy. One photo at a cafe, another at the park. Logan leaning in close, whispering something near my ear while his hand hovered near my back. "It's not what you think," I said instantly, reaching for the photos. "We were planning your birthday surprise." "I swear." "Shut up," he growled, grabbing my shoulders so hard I lost balance. His voice dropped lower, colder. "I know everything. How you locked yourself in his office. How you flirted at the company retreat." I could barely breathe. My throat went dry. "There's nothing going on. He was just helping me." The slap came fast. I didn't even see his hand move, only felt the sharp sting exploding across my cheek, followed by the metallic taste of blood on my tongue. "I picked you up from nothing," he spat. "Gave you a job, gave you a life, a home, and you repay me like this?" Tears flooded my eyes. I shook my head, still stunned. "Ethan, please. Just listen, pack your things. 20 minutes. I don't care where you go, but you're not staying here." He pulled out his phone, already calling someone. "And tell your little sidekick he's fired too." My hands trembled as I grabbed the nearest suitcase. I didn't know what to take. My mind was blank. My life was unraveling in real time, and I couldn't stop it. When I reached for the jewelry box, he blocked me. "Leave it," he said coldly. "Everything I gave you, bracelets, earrings, the ring, that stays. You walk out with what you walked in with." I stared down at the diamond engagement ring, still clinging to my finger. Walked in with? I came with a second-hand coat, worn-out boots, and a heart full of hope, and now I was leaving with less than that. "Even my paycheck?" I whispered. "That's mine too," he said without blinking. I placed the ring on the vanity, then the sapphire studs, the watch. One by one, every symbol of the life I thought we were building together landed on that cold wooden surface. In the end, I left with a small suitcase and a scarf, just one. A birthday gift from my best friend Vera. The only thing Ethan hadn't touched. At the Caldwell constructor's office, the security guard gave me a puzzled look. "Miss Graves?" "Mr. Caldwell said you no longer work here." I tried to keep my voice steady. "I need to speak with Logan Price." The guard shrugged. "He's gone too. Big blow-up this morning. Said you're both banned from the premises." I begged to collect my personal things. After a tense exchange, they allowed me upstairs, flanked by another guard like I was a criminal. My desk felt like a crime scene. Whispering co-workers avoided eye contact, like betrayal was contagious. I gathered my photo of Mom, my favorite mug, and saw it. A flash drive. The one with the slideshow I was preparing for Ethan's surprise party. I slipped it into my coat pocket. In the hallway, I passed Lainey from accounting. Her eyes flicked up, then away. "Lainey, please, do you know where Logan is?" She didn't even pause. "No. And if I were you, I'd leave before he comes back. Ethan's furious. Told everyone not to talk to you." Her heels clicked faster as she disappeared down the corridor. In the elevator, 2 male colleagues whispered. "She was sleeping with Logan behind Ethan's back," one said. Of course. Small-town girls like her, always hiding something. The doors closed before I could scream. That night, I cried at Vera's apartment until I couldn't breathe. What did I do? I sobbed. Why would he think that of me? She handed me tea, with shaking hands. Men are unpredictable. Today you're everything. Tomorrow you're disposable. But I saw it in her eyes. She was already calculating how long I could stay. A day, maybe 2. Her boyfriend basically lived there too. And just like that, I was alone, disgraced, homeless, and unaware that something was already changing inside me. I thought it was stress. I hadn't eaten properly in days, barely slept, and spent most nights curled up on Vera's couch, staring at the ceiling. But by the 3rd morning of waking up nauseous and sprinting to the bathroom, something clicked. No, it slammed into me. I bought a test at a pharmacy 2 blocks away, hiding my face behind sunglasses like I was doing something shameful. I took it in silence, sat there on Vera's cold bathroom tiles with trembling hands. 2 lines. I stared at them for what felt like hours. Then again, and again. 2 clear, undeniable lines. I was pregnant with Ethan's child, the same man who threw me out without a second thought. I leaned over the sink, trying not to cry. Not now. Not again. My baby didn't ask for any of this. Telling Ethan was out of the question. What would he think? That I made it up to trap him? To win him back? Or worse, that the baby wasn't his. And Logan? I couldn't even say his name without my stomach twisting. No, I needed space. Time. Somewhere far away. Somewhere I could think without whispers or threats. That's when I remembered it. A tiny wooden house in Hollow Creek, Montana. My grandfather's place. He passed away 5 years ago, and I hadn't visited since the funeral. My mother still kept the keys, just in case. I had brushed it off back then. What would I ever need with an old shack in the middle of nowhere? Now it felt like the only place left on earth that was mine. I called my mom, trying to keep my voice light. Hey, I think I just need a little break. Clear my head before the wedding. The lie came out easily. She hesitated. Things okay with Ethan? Yeah, of course. Just want to breathe before the big day. I could hear the worry in her tone, but she let it go. I'll overnight the keys, she said. You still have that old sleeping bag? The next morning, I packed what little I had left into a duffel bag. Vera hugged me briefly. No long goodbyes. Her boyfriend didn't even look up from his phone. I bought a one-way bus ticket and didn't tell anyone where I was going. Let them wonder. Let them think what they wanted. I was done explaining myself. The bus ride to Hollow Creek was long, bumpy, and bitterly quiet. Golden fields rolled past my window, then forests, then empty stretches of land that felt like a different country entirely. The farther I went, the lighter my chest felt, and the heavier my heart became. This wasn't a vacation. This was exile, self-imposed. But maybe it was exactly what I needed. An older woman with a floral scarf and kind eyes sat beside me. She didn't ask questions, just offered a wrapped sandwich and a bottle of water. When I politely declined, she nudged it into my lap anyway. You've got that look, she said. What look? I asked, startled. Same one I had when I found out I was pregnant on a Greyhound bus in '78. I blinked. She just winked. You're safe, honey. Whatever it is, you're safe. I smiled for the first time in days. The closer we got, the rougher the roads became. Potholes jerked the bus back and forth. At one point, I had to grab a paper bag and lean over, nausea winning again. The woman gently rubbed my back. You're early, she said calmly. Not even showing yet. First trimester, I'm guessing? I nodded weakly. No husband. Her voice wasn't judgmental, just curious. No, I whispered. She nodded again. Doesn't matter. It's still a miracle. When the bus finally pulled into the Hollow Creek stop, really just a gravel turnoff next to a faded gas station, she touched my arm. I'm Miss Annie. I live 2 houses down from the old syrup place. If you need anything, you come knock. My breath caught. You knew my grandfather? Her eyes lit up. Vasily? Of course. He always showed me photos of you. Said you'd come visit one day. My throat tightened with guilt. I hadn't come. Not once after he passed. He waited, she said gently as if reading my thoughts. But he'd be glad you're here now. I stepped off the bus and into the sharp autumn air, clutching my coat tighter. Miss Annie waved once, then disappeared down the gravel road. I stood there for a long minute, watching the sky shift to gray. Then I turned toward the house. The walk was longer than I remembered. Muddy. Half the path was overtaken by weeds. My city boots sank into the soft earth, and I cursed under my breath as one heel snapped clean off. Great. Just great. The house came into view, slowly, like a ghost revealing itself. It was smaller than I remembered, more fragile. Shutters askew, paint peeling like paper. The roof sagged slightly in the center. My grandfather's once proud porch was barely holding together, and yet it was still standing, still here. So was I. I dropped my bag on the porch, jiggled the rusty key in the lock, and stepped inside. The air smelled like dust, old books, and forgotten memories. I stood in the doorway and whispered into the silence. I made it, Grandpa. The first night was rough. I didn't sleep much. The wind howled through the broken window frames, and the old floorboards creaked like they were speaking some forgotten language. There was no electricity, no running water, and the only source of heat was a rusted-out wood stove that looked more decorative than functional. I wrapped myself in an old quilt I'd found in a cedar chest and tried not to think about everything I'd lost. But the silence had a strange effect on me. In Denver, silence was never really silent. There were always sirens, traffic, neighbors. Here, it felt like the house was breathing, waiting for me to speak first. The next morning, I was boiling water on a makeshift gas burner when I heard a knock at the door. Not a tap, a solid, confident knock. I froze. No one knew I was here, unless my mom had told someone. My heart started to race. I crept to the door, barefoot, still wearing an oversized flannel shirt and leggings from the day before. "Who is it?" I called, trying to keep my voice steady. "Mail," came a man's voice. "I've got a pension check for, Catherine Sirov?" My grandmother. I opened the door a crack, and there he was. A man in his early 30s wearing a blue post office jacket, holding a crumpled mail bag and a confused smile. His hair was a mess of chestnut waves, and his eyes were the soft kind that gave nothing but steadiness. There was something immediately honest about him. "My grandmother passed 9 years ago," I said quietly. "You might want to update your system." His face fell. "Oh, I'm really sorry. She's still on the delivery list. I'll make a note to remove her." He looked at me again. "You're her granddaughter?" I nodded. "How long you planning to stay?" I hesitated. "I don't know, a while, I think." He smiled. "Well, welcome to Hollow Creek. I'm Daniel. If you need anything, tools, phone charger, hell, even a hammer, I'm down the road. House with the red gate." "Thanks," I said, then paused. "Wait, you're the postman?" "Sort of." He shrugged. "I used to be an architect in Seattle. Life happened. Mom got sick. So now I'm a part-time postman and full-time repair guy for whoever needs one. An architect turned mailman in a town with one general store and more stray dogs than people. It should have sounded like a sad story, but somehow with him standing there it didn't. His eyes drifted behind me. "You got power in there?" I shook my head. "I thought I did, but nothing's working. I might have tripped something. Mind if I take a look?" I wanted to say no. I didn't know him. He was still a stranger. But something about him, his calmness, his grounded presence, made me step back and open the door. "Just be careful," I said. "This place is a death trap." He gave me a half smile and stepped inside like he belonged there. In minutes, he was poking at wires and examining the old fuse box. "This isn't safe," he muttered. "Honestly, this whole thing needs replacing. You're lucky it didn't spark in the middle of the night. I'd fix it myself, but..." I gestured vaguely at my stomach. He blinked, clearly noticing for the first time. "You're pregnant?" "Yes." "Got it," he said softly. No judgment, no surprise, just understanding. "Then you really shouldn't be in here without working heat or safe wiring." "I don't have money for a contractor," I admitted. He straightened up, wiping his hands on his jeans. "I didn't say anything about money. I'll come back tomorrow with what I need. Don't worry. You don't even know me. You're Sirov's granddaughter. That's enough." And with that, he was gone. That evening, I sat on the porch wrapped in the same quilt, sipping lukewarm tea from a chipped mug. Something about the way he said that's enough stuck with me. In Denver, I'd never been enough. Not for Ethan, not for Logan, not for the co-workers who turned their backs overnight. But here, in this little forgotten town, someone offered help without asking for anything. I didn't know what to make of it, but I knew one thing. I slept better that night. It was a Thursday when Logan Price showed up. I was sweeping leaves off the porch when I saw a sleek black SUV kicking up dust down the gravel road. My heart dropped into my stomach. Nobody around here drove cars like that. Not unless they were lost or came looking for something. Or someone. The engine cut out in front of the house. The door opened and there he was, Logan, wearing the same tailored coat and polished shoes he always wore at the office, like he'd stepped out of a Denver boardroom and into the middle of a forgotten postcard. "Alina," he said, his voice a little too cheerful, like we were old friends bumping into each other at a farmer's market. "What are you doing here?" I asked, stepping back toward the doorway. "Can we talk?" He said, "Just 5 minutes." I didn't answer, but I didn't slam the door either. He took that as a yes and followed me inside. He looked around like the place offended him. Dust, cracked wallpaper, an old quilt folded on a wooden chair. He didn't sit, just stood there like his dry-cleaned coat might absorb the history of the house if he touched anything. "I came to clear the air," he began. "You deserve the truth." I crossed my arms. "I'm listening." He looked down at his shoes, then back at me. It was me. I faked the photos, the ones Ethan saw. I staged them, photoshopped a few, made it look worse than it was. My mind went blank, then sharp, then everything turned red. "You what?" "I needed the promotion," he said, quickly. "You were in the way. Ethan trusted you. Everyone knew you were next in line. He was going to make you deputy, but I couldn't let that happen. You destroyed my life for a title?" My voice cracked on the last word. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," he said. "I just wanted you out of the office. I figured Ethan would be mad. Maybe break up. But fire you? Kick you out? That wasn't part of the plan." I let out a hollow laugh. "Oh, so it went too well." He had the nerve to look embarrassed. "Ethan found out. Eventually. Someone in accounting saw me messing with the files. He knows everything now. So he's a mess. He wants you back. But he's too proud to say it himself." And I raised a hand. "Let me guess. You want me to go back, smooth it over, make Ethan forgive you, so you get your job back?" He hesitated. That was all the answer I needed. "Get out," I said. "Alina, come on, no." My voice was steel. "You lied. You sabotaged me. You watched me fall apart and said nothing. You do not get to walk into this house and ask for anything." His expression darkened. "This is because of that postman, isn't it? Daniel. I saw him hanging around. You leave him out of this." Already calling him by his first name. He scoffed. "You're moving fast." "Get out," I said again, sharper this time. "You think Ethan will let this go?" He said as he backed toward the door. "He doesn't know you're pregnant." I didn't tell him, but I could. My blood went cold. "Don't you dare. I'm just saying, think it over. I'll be back tomorrow. Maybe you'll see things differently." He shut the door behind him. I stood there, breathing hard, the air thick with panic and fury. He knew. Logan knew. And now he had leverage. Again, I collapsed into the chair by the fireplace and stared at the ashes. My hands were shaking. The worst part, not just the betrayal or the fear or the threat, it was knowing how completely I'd been manipulated, how I never even saw it coming. Everything he'd done at the office, offering to help with presentations, asking about Ethan's schedule, suggesting we grab lunch to talk strategy, all of it had been part of the setup. And I walked right into it. I don't know how long I sat there, but when I finally looked up, Daniel was standing at the door. He didn't knock, didn't call out, just stood there quietly, his eyes scanning my face. "You okay?" he asked. "No," I whispered. And somehow, in the space between those two words, everything spilled out. I told him everything. Ethan, the photos, Logan, the pregnancy, the lies, the fear. He didn't interrupt. Just stood there, listening like a man who knew how to hold the weight of someone else's world without asking for anything in return. When I finally finished, my voice hoarse and my face wet, he spoke quietly. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know," I said. "But I know one thing. I'm never going back." He nodded once. "Then you won't be alone." It was late afternoon when I saw the car. I was in the garden behind the house, pulling weeds with a small hand rake, trying to keep my mind quiet. Daniel had stopped by earlier to drop off extra firewood. He didn't stay, just a soft smile, a call me if anything feels off, and then he was gone again. He always left just enough space for me to breathe. So when I heard tires on gravel, my first thought was his truck. But it wasn't a truck. It was white, sleek, expensive, and very out of place. My heart clenched. The door opened, and there he was, Ethan Caldwell, standing in his designer boots on my overgrown dirt path like he had any business here. He looked thinner. The shadows under his eyes were darker, but it was still him. Still the man who once said he loved me and then threw me out like garbage. "Alina," he said softly. I stood, brushing dirt from my hands, my breath already coming faster. "What are you doing here? I needed to see you. I've made a mistake. I didn't speak. I know the truth now. About Logan. About the photos." He admitted everything. "I was wrong. And I'm sorry. So sorry." I swallowed hard. There it was, the moment I used to dream about in those nights on Vera's couch, when I thought an apology could fix everything. But now, looking at him in my garden, next to my broken fence and wild mint, it felt hollow. "I appreciate the apology," I said, "but it doesn't change what you did." He stepped closer. "Let me make it right. Come home. We'll figure it out together." "There is no home, Ethan. You ended that the day you slammed the door on me. I was angry, hurt. Logan manipulated me, and you believed him, without even asking me. You didn't give me a chance." He stared at me, like he was searching for something on my face. Then his eyes dropped, lingering for just a moment on the slight curve beneath my sweater. "You look different," he said, hesitating. "Your face. You're glowing." "And that?" He stepped forward, a breath catching in his throat. "You're pregnant," he said quietly. "It's mine, isn't it?" My stomach twisted. "Yes," I whispered. "But that doesn't give you the right to control me. I'm the father. I have rights. Rights you forfeited when you threw me onto the street without a cent, without listening, without caring." He was getting louder now, the smooth tone cracking. "I'm not going to let my child grow up in a shack in the middle of nowhere. And I'm not going to let my child grow up around someone who sees love as ownership." We stared at each other, the air thick with all the things we didn't say. Then another voice cut through the tension. She said no. Ethan turned. Daniel stood at the edge of the path, hands in his pockets, calm as ever. "You again," Ethan muttered. "You think you're something. You think this little role-playing as a handyman makes you a hero? I think I care about her. That's more than you've done lately. You have no idea who I am." Daniel stepped forward. "No, but I know what you're not. You're not the man she needs." Ethan's face twisted. "You're not her family. You're not the father. You're just. I'm someone who shows up when she needs help. That's enough." Ethan looked at me. "This what you want now? This town? This substitute?" I didn't flinch. "This peace. This life. This child. Yes. All of it." He shook his head. "You'll regret this." "I already regret ever thinking you'd protect me." Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. For a second, I saw something in his eyes. Maybe pain. Maybe disbelief that I wasn't running back into his arms. Then he turned and walked back to his car. When the engine faded, I realized I was shaking. Daniel stepped beside me, but didn't touch me. He just stood there until my breathing slowed. "Thank you," I finally said. "You don't have to thank me." "I do. For showing up. For staying." He looked at me, quiet, steady. "I'm not going anywhere. And just like that, the door to my old life finally closed and stayed shut. Autumn turned to winter slowly in Hollow Creek. The days grew shorter, the air sharper, and the world outside my windows turned into a quiet canvas of bare trees and distant smoke from neighboring chimneys. But inside the little house, something new was taking root. Me. It started with the small things. I bought checkered curtains at the local store and hung them myself. I fixed the squeaky cabinet door in the kitchen using a rusty screwdriver and Daniel's patient instructions. I swept the porch every morning, just to see the clean lines against the frost. And Daniel, he never hovered, never pushed. He came by when I needed help lifting something heavy, when the heater coughed too hard, when the wind blew a shutter loose. Sometimes he just brought tea and left it at the door. But most times he stayed long enough for quiet conversations about nothing and everything. I told him about my old dreams, the way I used to imagine myself curating exhibitions, giving lectures about Monet and Rodin to packed auditoriums. He listened with the kind of stillness that made me feel like I was worth listening to. And he told me his story too. The architecture firm he worked for. The colleague who stole his design and blamed him for the disaster that followed. The mess, the public humiliation, the quiet decision to just walk away and never look back. We were both running from versions of ourselves that were built in glass towers and fell just as easily. One day, while visiting Daniel's mother, Carol, she handed me a binder filled with old art books. "Thought you might want something to keep your mind busy," she said with a smile. "And maybe you can use it if you start teaching at the local school." "Teaching?" She nodded. "They've been trying to find someone to cover art history for the high school. Not a lot of takers. Too small of a town, they say. But I think the kids would love you." At first, I hesitated. The thought of standing in front of a room again, of explaining brushstrokes and symbolism, felt almost foreign. But then I remembered who I was before Ethan, before Logan, before I measured my worth by how quiet I could be. So I said yes. It was only 2 days a week, 10 students, a chalkboard older than me. But when I saw their eyes light up as I talked about Van Gogh and light theory and the way art survives war and pain, I felt something stir in me again. I was becoming whole. Meanwhile, my belly grew. The nausea had passed, replaced by late-night kicks and the growing realization that I wasn't just rebuilding my life. I was building someone else's too. A tiny heartbeat that danced during ultrasounds. A life I couldn't yet name, but already loved with everything I had left. Daniel was there through all of it. Every doctor's appointment, every grocery run. He fixed the roof when the first snow hit, reinforced the stairs, and even built a crib with his own hands, sanding every slat until it was smooth as silk. "You don't have to do all this," I told him once, watching as he carefully installed a night light shaped like a moon. "I know," he said, not looking up. "I want to." And then one evening after dinner, just grilled cheese and soup, nothing fancy, I looked across the table and realized I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't afraid of him leaving, or disappointing him, or needing too much, because he didn't make me feel small. He didn't make me prove my worth. He just saw it. "Daniel," I said softly. He glanced up. "I don't know what this is yet, but I'm not running anymore." He smiled, and for the first time, reached across the table and took my hand. "I've been waiting for you to say that." We didn't kiss that night. We didn't rush. We just sat there, hand in hand, while the wind tapped gently at the windows and the fire crackled behind us. And for the first time since my world fell apart, I felt like I belonged again. It's been 1 year since I stepped off that bus in Hollow Creek. A full year since I stood on my grandfather's porch, broken, scared, with a baby growing quietly inside me and no idea what came next. Now I sit on the same porch, a blanket draped over my lap, a warm cup of tea in one hand, and in the other, the tiny fingers of my daughter, Nadine. She's 3 months old. Her hair is impossibly soft, the color of warm honey. Her eyes, Daniel's eyes, watch everything with curious focus, as if the world is a puzzle she's already halfway to solving. Sometimes I catch her staring at the sky like she remembers something I've forgotten. Daniel says she's going to be an artist. I say maybe she'll be an architect. He laughs and says, either way, she'll build something beautiful. He's not wrong. The house is no longer falling apart. We repainted the walls together. He picked the color, I picked the brushes. Carol gifted us new curtains. Miss Annie left jam on the porch every Sunday during my last trimester. Steppen stopped by once with a hand-carved wooden cradle that made me cry for 20 minutes straight. We got married in July. It was a small ceremony in the field behind the house. Just a few neighbors, a borrowed speaker, and a bouquet picked from Carol's garden. I wore a simple dress. Daniel wore a blue shirt I hadn't seen before. Nadine slept through most of it, but when he said, "I'll never walk away," and I looked at the people who had stood by me without asking for anything, I knew I'd found my home. My real one. Teaching at the high school has become more than just a job. My students have stopped calling me Miss Graves and started calling me Ms. G. They bring me sketches and questions, and sometimes stories they're afraid to tell anyone else. I think they see something in me, maybe a reminder that healing isn't loud. That sometimes rebuilding your life looks like taking attendance and talking about Impressionism on a rainy Thursday morning. And Ethan? He tried to call. Once. It was a number I didn't recognize. But I knew, and I didn't answer. I didn't need to. There was nothing left to say. He doesn't know about Nadine. He never will. That's not revenge. It's protection. Because my daughter will grow up in a world where love isn't conditional, where people don't raise their voices to be heard, and where no one is ever thrown away for being human. She'll know peace and safety and the kind of quiet joy I didn't believe existed until I came here. And Daniel, he reads to her every night, even when she's already asleep. He built her a mobile out of twigs and paper cranes that spins gently in the breeze. He brings me coffee in the morning and still kisses my forehead like it's the first time. I used to think love had to be dramatic, sweeping, like the movies. Now I know. Love is steady hands when yours are trembling. Love is warm socks on cold mornings. Love is staying. I look down at Nadine. She's sleeping now, her breath soft and even, one tiny fist curled against her cheek. Daniel steps out onto the porch, 2 mugs in hand. He hands me one and sits beside me, our shoulders touching. She smiled in her sleep, I whisper. She probably dreamed of you, he replies. I smile. I used to think my life ended the day Ethan slammed that door, but it didn't. It cracked wide open so something better could begin. The wind rustles the trees, and in the distance, I hear laughter from Miss Annie's porch. Somewhere a dog barks. The world feels quiet in all the right ways. And in that quiet, I finally hear my own voice again. Not the broken girl who begged to be believed. Not the forgotten fiancé left behind in a penthouse. But the woman who chose herself and built something real.